Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 838 for the 27th of October 2024. Richard Saunders coming to you from the Grand Room here at the Horseshoe Casino and Hotel here in Las Vegas for CSIcon. With me to introduce the show this week are those loons from Canada. It's Kate. Hello, Kate.
Hello, Richard.
And Allie.
Hey, how you doing?
And we have a few onlookers and photograph people and all sorts of things happening. And my good friend Dr Sue Ieraci's here. Hello, Sue.
Hello, Dr. Richard Saunders.
And you're speaking tomorrow at the morning papers, aren't you?
Yes, I am. My first appearance at CSIcon.
Excellent. Wonderful. Wonderful that you could make it all this way. Kate and Allie, wonderful to be with you once again. The last time I saw you was in Canada.
It was, and it was at a conference.
Imagine that.
Thank the skeptical fairy that I was able to get to Vegas.
Thank the skeptical fairy. I bet you want to know what's coming up on this week's show.
I think, am I supposed to now say that what's coming up on this week's show?
You know.
Say yes, Richard. Please tell us what's on this week's show.
I'm keeping that in, you know that.
I know you always do. There's the giggle, too. Yes, Richard, I want to know all about what's on this week's show.
You did that so naturally. Our friend Rob Palmer is here once again, and he's going to be interviewing Dr. Sue.
He is.
He did, and he was, and he will. Dr. Angie Mattke, our good friend, he interviews me after my workshop, Leonard Tramiel, Adrienne Hill, oh, imagine that.
Imagine that.
And the editor of Skeptical Inquirer magazine, Stephen Hupp. Following that, it's the Australian Skeptics Newsletter, read by Adrienne Hill.
Oh, I don't know her.
Oh, you don't know. Which is a great segment, and of course written by Tim Mendham. And the TROVE Archives, once again, we're looking at various alternative medicine claims. Dr. Sue Ieraci, an interest of yours.
Like that. Oh, I definitely don't like that. I'd be interested to hear what you say.
Well, thank you very much. Well, look at the crowd. What a crowd it is, folks. It's a little gap in the proceedings at the moment. It's a full house.
Standing room only.
Yeah, it really is. It's fantastic to see so many people. I got a warm reception from my psychic detectives talk yesterday.
Yes, which I very much enjoyed.
Thank you very much.
Well, and don't forget about your workshop. It was excellent.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. So when the show is finally produced, I can just go to my bed and put the covers over my head and just collapse, I think. But now it's time to run around the corner, run down the stairs, run down the escalators and the elevators to the bowels of this hotel. What shall we have? What do you think we should have?
Oh, maybe some lemonade because it's warm.
Lemonade?
Diet root beer.
Diet root beer. What would you like to drink?
I'd like some iced coffee.
Iced coffee. Why, we all do that. We all hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
I am here at the first day of CSIcon, and I run into somebody who's going to be giving a talk on the last day of CSIcon, on Sunday. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Rob. My name's Sue Ieraci. I'm an Australian emergency physician, and this is my first time both in Las Vegas and at CSIcon, and it's so exciting.
So, how did you first find out about this conference?
Through my Skeptics network in Australia. As some of you might know, the Australian Skeptics Society is built on the American one. We even spell skeptics the same way. And so I mix in that community in Australia and therefore heard about this.
And, as I mentioned, you're going to be speaking here on Sunday. How did that come about?
That's right. Well, I saw that there was a call for papers on the Sunday morning, and so I put in a proposal. I'm fairly used to speaking at medical conferences, but this was a good opportunity to put out some ideas to a more general community. So I put in my paper and I was lucky to be selected.
Oh, not lucky. It's a great talk. And what's the talk on?
The talk is sharing the background information I have from a medical background with other people that helps to debunk some of the myths about medicine, particularly the anti-science criticism of what they call Western medicine, but it's actually science-based medicine.
I heard there's a particular problem with that. Maybe in New Zealand, where they basically want to equate traditional medicine with quote-unquote Western medicine?
That's right. It's interesting, isn't it, that it's mixed with the cultural acceptance of ancient practices. The same thing is happening in Australia with Indigenous so-called science. And I'd have to say very respectfully that there's a difference between culture and science, that the fact that things are ancient doesn't mean that they're more valid than modern things.
Right, that's a logical fallacy, right? Ancient wisdom or popularity makes it true.
That's right. And especially the Chinese, billions of people can't be wrong fallacy.
Traditional Chinese medicine.
That's right.
Yes. So the other question I wanted to ask is, you've seen the speaker list already, right? And
yes.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing them talk and maybe even meeting them?
Oh, I've particularly got a dream of meeting Brian Cox.
Everyone is
as
saying
does
that.
everyone.
Is it his accent or his haircut or his reputation?
Oh, I think you missed his appearance.
Well, that's part of the haircut. Yes, I'm looking forward to that too. And of
I think
course,
he might be mobbed.
Yes, it might be difficult to get some time with him. All right, well, thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to your presentation on Sunday.
You're welcome. Good to meet you face to face.
So I'm talking to Dr. Angie Mattke, who's a longtime skeptical activist. And could you tell the Skeptic Zone listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a practicing emergency physician, and I am the co-director of the Skeptic Track at DragonCon, which I urge all y'all to come see. It's fantastic. We also have
which is held.
It's held in Atlanta every Labor Day weekend, and it is a lot. DragonCon is a lot to deal with. Upwards of 80,000 people come in costumes, and there are multiple tracks to choose from, but we've carved out a very specific niche, and we are very recognizable amongst the DragonCon community, and we are delighted to welcome new skeptics.
Very cool. Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to speak virtually during the pandemic once. Yeah.
You certainly did.
Yes,
we loved that. Thank you so much. We hope you'll be able to come back and join us in person.
And DragonCon and CSIcon aren't the only skepticism that you're involved in. You also just took a flight across the pond from
Manchester, UK, where I went to my second QED, which is one of my favorite conferences. Actually, these are my three favorites.
Never made that one.
Oh, you should definitely go if you get a chance. It is wonderful. The Merseyside Skeptic Society does a skeptic camp prior to the actual convention. And that team that puts on the QED con is just phenomenal. They're so inclusive, and this year they had live translations, or not translations, but live closed captioning, which was very helpful because some of the speakers actually had pretty thick Geordie accents, which was very difficult for those of us who don't necessarily have an ear yet.
If I watch Doctor Who, I have to turn on closed captions. Half of the main stars you get to know, but the guests, I don't know what they're saying.
Indeed. Well, it sometimes is very helpful, but it's also very helpful for either folks who have processing delays, who are neurospicy or
Divergent?
I don't like that term. They've convinced me. They've convinced me.
I hear that all the time.
It's true, but they have convinced me neuro-inclusive is a better term.
Oh, I wonder if that'll catch on.
I hope so, because divergent implies that there's some not statistical norm, but that there is a normal brain, and anything outside of that is divergent. And they have persuaded me that it is actually better to use a different term that is more inclusive.
Interesting. All right, so back to CSIcon. What are you looking forward mostly about the next few days here in Vegas?
Okay, I squealed probably the most over seeing Brian Cox's name on the agenda. And in fact, I brought a book that I had autographed by Robin Ince. It was actually Robin Ince's book. He's his partner on The Infinite Monkey Cage, which is an extremely popular podcast. And it's one of my favorites. And so Robin Ince, who gave a couple of talks, and it's funny that when I listen to his podcast at 1.5 speed, he sounds exactly the same in person, which cracks me up. But anyway, so he signed the book, and I'm hoping to have Brian Cox sign the book as well, because he did the foreword for that book.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting Brian Cox too. Okay, well, thanks for your time. They're about to open the room, so we should get to the first workshop.
We certainly should. I can't wait to see Richard and Kenny, and they're in true form.
Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much, Rob.
So, Skeptic Zone listeners, I have run into somebody. I'm lying, I didn't run into him. I was sitting in his workshop. He's just come off the stage, having completed his workshop, showing us all this amazing stuff. Want to say hello?
Now it's time once again to head back to those archives. Oh no, this is the wrong part of the show. Hello, Rob. Hello, Rob.
So this was a kickoff event for CSIcon 2024.
Yeah.
It was a joint workshop between you and Kenny Biddle.
Yeah.
Kenny Biddle led off, showing us all the tricks that people who claim they're being haunted do, and he showed how we do them. And what was your talk about?
Water divining, the power balance tests, and bending some spoons. And in the audience was the world's best spoon bender, Banachek. So
how did that make you feel, him being your audience?
You know what? It's wonderful to see him. He's an old friend of mine, and I can bend spoons to great effect, but nothing like he can. Yeah. No, it was great. I was pleased he was here. Yeah.
Did you know he was going to be here?
No, I did not. But to see him, he's an old friend, so it's wonderful.
The other thing that I thought was interesting was one of your segments of the three you did was the power balance, and you actually went to the place next door where someone was trying to sell you the equivalent of that.
Yeah. Someone did the test on me yesterday here in Las Vegas.
It's amazing they're still selling that after the company originally was sued.
Well, it's another company.
Yeah,
it's another product using the same debunked tests. Yeah.
And the water divining segment was really interesting too. So one thing I don't think that got tackled was what's the harm aspect of that. A lot of times skeptics talk about that. And one thing I know about is the U.S. government during the Iraq War bought modified lost golf ball finding equipment that were worked by the ideomotor effect, and they paid good money for it, and people got blown up and killed.
That is the classic what's the harm.
Yes.
Because if you just think about people walking around finding water for farmers, oh well, it is what it is.
But in this case, this technology was given to people at checkpoints, and they let people with bombs through.
That's the harm. You've answered your own question.
Yeah. All right.
All right, I got to rest now.
Thank you, and good show.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's still the first day of CSIcon 2024, and I have finished the workshops, wandering the halls, waiting for the afternoon events, and who do I run into? But
Leonard Tramiel.
And it says on your name tag, CFI board member. You are the first board member I think I have ever interviewed for the Skeptic Zone. So how'd you get on the board? What's it like being on the board? What do you do? I have so many questions about what's the board? What does the board do?
So the board basically sets the high-level goals and direction of CFI.
What's the difference between CFI and CSI? CSI being the people running this conference technically, because it's CSI conference.
CSI is a program within CFI. So CFI has three programs: CSI, the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry; CSH, the Council for Secular Humanism; and the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science.
Okay, so those are, you could think of CFI as the parent organization of those?
The umbrella organization.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you, Leonard.
You are most welcome. Take care, Rob.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks.
Well, I've been looking to interview Stephen Hupp, the editor of Skeptical Inquirer, this morning, and I finally got him in a relatively quiet spot. And he happens to be speaking with somebody who Skeptic Zone listeners may recognize the voice of.
Adrienne Hill. Not from Skookum Studios, though.
No, from the Horseshoe Casino, Hotel, Resort, whatever this is. And they happen to be talking about the latest issue of Skeptical Inquirer, which has Adrienne's name on it. And I came across her signing interviews.
Not interviews.
Signing it.
Signing. Just say it again.
I came across Steve and Adrienne standing there while people were lining up to get autographed copies of the magazine because her name is on the cover. Yeah. So was this an out-of-body experience?
It was very much an out-of-body experience to be asked to do that. And I even said to Stephen, what do I write? I was just overwhelmed, and he just said your name. And I went, okay.
Well, you write it beautifully. It's a beautiful signature, and it's a beautiful cover. And it's just a beautiful story. I'm just so happy to have this in our magazine and represent it. And it really started, at least for me, it started seeing your Sunday papers last year at CSIcon.
That's right.
And so the story, if people don't know, this is about?
Sarah Winchester and the Winchester Mystery House, or the the mystery house that never was is what I like to call it.
And because Stephen took interest in this and got it published in Skeptical Inquirer, now Adrienne has been all over the internet. Where have you been? But I just see you all the time. YouTube suggests, look at this video and Adrienne's there. Look at this video and Adrienne's there.
I've had an amazing response to the article, which was unexpected, I have to say. I mean, it was a thrill to be on the cover and my name in big letters. I've had some people like Melanie Tracy King kind of mad about that. I think we need to go back and redo hers, apparently.
I must admit that I was a little bit jealous.
There you go.
Three articles, no name on cover, not even in small letters.
So I think we can credit Stephen for that idea.
So how do you decide to put the author's name on the cover, which was not done before, to my knowledge?
I think it's done sometimes and not other times, but I've only been editor for 6 printed issues now, and put no words on my very first cover because it was an inkblot.
Like Rorschach test.
Yeah, I've been progressively adding more words to the cover. I didn't add Ken Fraser's name on the cover when we excerpted his book for my 3rd issue, and I always kind of regret it. I'm like, oh, I should have put Ken Fraser's name on the cover. But pretty much ever since then, I think we've put the author's name on every cover, and that's my intention. I realized, that's much better. For one, if the author's already kind of a celebrity, it sells the magazine, and if the author's not already a celebrity, then they should be. And it'll help build the celebrity of what they do. So.
Well, and hopefully it also brings awareness back to Skeptical Inquirer. And for example, I was asked, because of being on the cover, to go up to a university in Edmonton, which is 3 hours away, to speak to a class of 4th-year students with Rodney Schmaltz, who is here for
Lilycon.
Thank you,
Lilycon.
for
and
Lilycon.
He did his Sunday papers last year for us.
That's correct, yes. And that's where we met, actually. And then he remembered my name from the Sunday papers when he saw the cover. So that kind of brought me to the university.
Synergy.
Yeah, and I gave away all my copies of Skeptical Inquirer to the students. And not only that, but he made all of them, as an assignment, read that article.
Wow.
So there's all this exposure that's happening because of that article to me and to youth, which I think is really important. I've also been interviewed on 502 Conversations with Brian Kirby, and also Coleman Watts, who has an amazing YouTube channel that's starting to grow and starting to take off. He does the most amazing YouTube videos with a large comic twist.
Because he's got a theatrical background and and editing also, and he brings both of those to his show.
He's very funny, but he's very pointed with his skepticism. And so he reached out to me and said, hey, what do you think? You want to do this? And so I provided, he would say, do you have a picture of this? Or do you know how to find out about this? Or what happened? They said this in the video. Can you tell me something about it? So I'm giving him the resources, I'm giving him the photos, and then he also incorporated both myself and Kenny Biddle into this video. And I have seen the rough cut of it, and it is amazing. It's really well done, and Skeptical Inquirer magazine with my cover features prominently throughout the video. It's in the background. The person working at the house is reading it. It's just all the way through the video, so it's great.
I'm not psychic, but I see an increase in subscriptions for your magazine.
Hey, well, that's all magic to my ears, and I'm very excited about that. But I was also just excited to be able to promote this story that reclaimed Sally Winchester's life story, because it's just been so mistreated for so long. And on top of that, I'm just excited about the work that you guys are involved with Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. And we let Susan Gerbic, she was willing to write the very opening piece in that whole issue, really recruiting for more contributors to GSOW.
She's already had somebody stop by the table and sign up because of that article.
Good. And my last favorite thing though about it is we snuck GSOW on the cover, on the license plate of the Mystery Machine. So many
clever.
Fun things with that issue.
Very clever. And you mentioned the reclaiming the history of this very important woman, this amazing woman, and I think that's correct. We need to correct that misinformation and celebrate a pioneer of her time and not make her crazy. And I think that's really important. And regarding the GSOW, not only was she getting people at the table, but since that article came out, we've had multiple people reach out to come and join GSOW.
Fantastic.
So it's actually had an impact. In fact, I just saw one the other day.
All right. Well, thank you. I'll let you get back to your activities, including giving autographs on your cover story. All right. Thank you both.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Dr. Harriet Hall, MD, known to thousands as the Skepdoc, was a retired family physician and former Air Force flight surgeon who wrote about medicine, so-called complementary and alternative medicine, science, quackery, and critical thinking. Harriet produced a free online course of 10 video lectures on science-based medicine and alternative medicine. The videos and an accompanying course guide can be found by following the link at skepdoc.info or by visiting tinyurl.com/skepdoc series. Topics covered in the series are science-based medicine versus evidence-based medicine. What is CAM? Chiropractic, acupuncture, homeopathy, naturopathy and herbal medicine, energy medicine, miscellaneous alternatives, pitfalls in research, and science-based medicine in the media and politics. Harriet covers each topic in a matter-of-fact, no-nonsense way that is sure to educate and entertain. Find it at tinyurl.com/skepdoc series. Hello everyone, this is Adrienne Hill, and I'm going to read the highlights from the Australian Skeptics Newsletter from the comforts of Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada. This is newsletter number 208, and remember, you can subscribe to this newsletter and receive it every other week in your inbox. The full newsletter includes more stories and links to all the stories mentioned. But now, let's see what Tim Mendham has for us this time. Hi all, says Tim. Did we miss International Skeptics Day again? Apparently, it was Friday the 13th. This short news report, with the annoyingly cliched title, quote, "It's International Skeptic Day, but is it really?" end quote, explains what skepticism is and the difference from cynicism. Of course, you could say that SkeptiCon 2024 is also International Skeptics Day or days, so don't miss that one. Meanwhile, read on. Tim. Okay, Tim, I'll do just that. SkeptiCon tickets now on sale. SkeptiCon 2024, which is in Sydney from November 23rd through 24th. We thought we'd alert you to a new session for the convention, 15 Minutes of Infamy, in which noted scientists and researchers reveal what happened when they found themselves in the not-too-friendly spotlight of media and the public. What happened? How did they cope? And what would they suggest you do if you ever find yourself in this uncomfortable, to say the least, situation? You can book tickets for in-person or online attendance at the website, skepticon.org.au. It's bound to be a great event, and we look forward to seeing you there, either in person or via the internet. Oh no! Oh no, Ross and Carrie closes. It is sad to note that one of the leading skeptical podcasts, and the second one I ever discovered, Oh No, Ross and Carrie, have decided to call it a day. The podcast started in 2011. Ross Blotcher and Carrie Poppy's catchphrase was, quote, "We show up so you don't have to," end quote, as they investigated many fringe outfits, including Scientology, Mormonism, the Aetherius Society, the Ark Encounter, Rhythmia, a Costa Rica ayahuasca retreat, chiropractic, and the Loch Ness Monster. Ross Blotcher said, quote, "We started as two scrappy young friends, eager to learn about the world of belief from believers themselves. 13 years later, we've heard from so many listeners that the podcast got them through hard times, helped them challenge or leave their faith, or even encouraged them to start a degree program. It's more than we ever could have imagined, and I'm so grateful for the experience," end quote. In a farewell message, Carrie Poppy mentioned that a factor in her departure was influenced by a traumatic event that she had experienced and for which she was undergoing treatment for PTSD. I've never had the fortune of meeting Carrie Poppy, but I've certainly enjoyed her work for a very long time, and I really wish the best for her and her recovery. All of Ross and Carrie's episodes can be found on the Maximum Fun podcast site, and I highly recommend you check them out if you have never heard the podcast. Canadians growing skeptical of childhood vaccinations. Yeah, this is not good. And skeptical meaning uncertain, not skeptical as in critical thinking. But just over 3 in 10 continue to believe the debunked idea that there is a connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. So there are some worrying hurdles to deal with. And on that note, just a few days ago, I was at a dinner with people I'd never met before, and they asked me what I was doing this next week, and I said, "Oh, on Monday I'm going to get my COVID vaccine and my flu shot." And the response was, "Why would you get a COVID vaccine? And I haven't had a flu shot for like 20 years. So it seems to be an issue about all vaccines, not just the MMR. Expelled. Creationist documentary under fire. Co-writer of the 2008 anti-evolution film Expelled reveals his change of heart over the production of the film and his attitude to promoters of so-called intelligent design. In addition to ID theorists, the film included interviews with noted proponents of evolutionary theory such as Richard Dawkins, Eugenie Scott, Christopher Hitchens, and Michael Shermer. Baba Vanga's predictions, the shocking truth. The blind Bulgarian mystic is still making predictions, even though she died almost 30 years ago. This article makes the shocking suggestion that, quote, much of what is attributed to her is likely exaggerated or fabricated, end quote. The September issue of The Skeptic is out with a feature devoted to magic, magicians, shamans, however you say that, and the relationship with skeptics. Other contents include a look at Lemuria, before it sank, bad influencers, the Minnewanka Merman, and more. Next issue, we'll be looking at psychiatry, the history of skeptical challenges, anti-vaxxers, and based on what Richard said, I don't think I can say this one because it will be removed from YouTube. So I'm going to call it Slack Balv. Are you with me? You know when you switch the first letters of each word? I think you're with me. So let's do this again. For the next issue, we'll be looking at psychiatry, the history of skeptical challenges, anti-vaxxers, and Slack Balv. Manifesting and exploding heads, and much more. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time to do so. Contact the editor if you're not sure if your existing subscription needs renewing. Learn more about our magazine and subscribe now. Items of interest. Travel tip number 1. 10 islands with most mysterious deaths each year. Sounds like fun places to visit. Most of these are in the Caribbean. But Greenland gets a nod, so does the Isle of Man, which apparently is, quote, a hotbed of paranormal activity, end quote, including fairies and black dogs. Though how they react to the annual motorbike races is anyone's guess. Travel tip number 2. America's haunted highways. Yeah, we know. Ghosts again. This blog, devoted to recreational vehicles, or RVs in American and Canadian, gives a decent list that will keep you busy driving in your RV to all of them. We do like the disclaimer. Quote, this content is largely a work of folklore or fiction. Names, individuals, events, and incidents either are products of the author's imagination, are the recitation of all or part of a myth or legend, and or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events or incidents is coincidental, end quote. Another outlet that covers this story includes a handy guide to the most common paranormal experiences you can come across while driving. Number 1 being, quote, unexplained lights or glows, end quote. Has Nessie finally been found? Oh, sorry for your ears, but it's all in caps. And isn't that what you're supposed to do when it's all in caps? You're supposed to shout? Not quite sure why the use of capitals, but here you have one unclear sonar image and one set of very unclear photos. They'll probably make it into the official Loch Ness Monster sightings register, but they won't be top of the pile. A safe place for Bigfoot stories. People share encounters with the cryptid giant at the annual Minnesota Bigfoot Conference, finding evidence against skeptics, a range of merchandise, and a community of radical acceptance. This is as much a human interest story as it is truly explanatory. Well, that's all for today, and unfortunately, I am too tired for my usual Canadian word of the day. You see, after flying home from Spain, some critters apparently decided to hitch a ride back to Canada. Maybe they wanted to check out Skookum Studios, who knows? That would have been fine if they'd left me alone. I really don't appreciate the bites. And I know listeners will not be surprised to learn about the fake remedies that I discovered online that promise to rid your home of bedbugs. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission has actually fined numerous companies selling some of these promised bedbug remedies. They include ionic, ultrasonic, and electromagnetic bedbug eliminators, and they're not cheap. Other companies have sold cedar, cinnamon, lemongrass, peppermint, and clove oil-based bedbug eradicators. Nope, don't fall for any of that. But I think we got them all. I've had no bites for 2 days now, but unfortunately, I'm still a little afraid to sleep. It's really creepy. And I'm so glad we got rid of them, because the last thing I would have wanted to do was to take them on my next trip, which is to go to Las Vegas for CSIcon. And I'm looking forward to meeting with all the old and many new skeptical friends while there. If you see me, come say hello. Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada.
Hi everyone, it's Susan Gerpick from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. I'm here at CSIcon in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm hoping that you guys are going to attend the upcoming Skepticon held in Sydney, Australia this year. It's real important to get to our skeptic conferences. They're networking places, social activities, and just being with other people to learn new things and to just meet new people. For more information, visit www.skepticon.org.au. Please go to your conferences, and I'll see you when I see you. Thanks, everyone.
Here we go. once again back to the archives at Trove at trove.nla.gov.au, the wonderful resource from the National Library of Australia. It sounds very august, doesn't it? The National Library of Australia. I wonder if there are kangaroos to greet you at the door. I must go there and have a look one day. Anyway, when you go online, free for you to peruse, to raid, to investigate the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of newspaper reports stretching back decades, indeed centuries. And this week I thought we'd look at a few articles simply to do with the rather large and vague topic at times of alternative medicine. Yes, you too can be a healthcare practitioner, whatever that means. Or as they say in the advertising, a healthcare professional, whatever that means. So I've found a few items here of varying points of view, we might say. And the first one comes from a publication called Woronie, Woroni, from Canberra, and this was in publication from 1950 to 2007. And this particular item comes from the year 1992 on the 1st of February. Alternative Medicine with Robin Ingle. Consumer-oriented medicine today presents the individual with a vast number of choices. Each of us now has the opportunity to shop around when it comes to our selection of appropriate healthcare, but many of us still find the choice difficult and fraught with uncertainty for several reasons. Education and information regarding the alternatives to orthodox healthcare services is not always readily available, and often enough we have ourselves to blame for not taking a more active role in the supply and demand process. For many of us, our health has become the subject of control by others, and we have allowed our own responsibility for it to diminish considerably. In recent years, the growth of alternative or complementary medicine has been stimulated by a growing awareness of the shortcomings of, quote, magic bullet, end quote, drug therapies and a reaction to the impersonal nature sometimes offered by conventional health services. Let me pause here. I wonder where this report is leading. What do you think? We read on. Naturopathy, homeopathy, and acupuncture are systems of healing and medicine which have been developed over many years. In fact, modern medicine has its roots in herbalism, as plant medicines were amongst the first to be discovered. These therapies all have the common advantage of being less likely to produce side effects or adverse reactions. Well, homeopathy, I guess that's a good case. You can't have side effects if you don't have effects to begin with. We read on. As, quote, holistic, end quote, medicines, they consider the mental and emotional details of the patient examinable, since these contribute to the overall health. As holistic, and that's in quotation marks, medicines, they consider the mental and emotional details of the patient examinable, since these contribute to the overall health or disease pattern. Medical doctors with their severe time constraints find it difficult to assess a patient in the way a naturopath is able to do. In any one experience of illness, there may be a need for the services of more than one health care practitioner, and it is here we see the increasing usage of orthodox and complementary medicines combined. Modern medicine serves well to exclude life-threatening illnesses, but then what? Many patients may be left with a palette chronic symptoms. I think that should read a palette of chronic symptoms, creating continuing discomfort and psychological despair. Alternative therapies have a valuable role here as an adjunct to orthodox treatment. A consultation with a well-trained alternative practitioner and a carefully selected course of treatment may in fact avert a surgical procedure, hence the phrase, quote, preventative, end quote, medicine. The mechanist view of health may lead to the treatment of the individual as a collection of symptoms to be modified in isolation. By contrast, holism is a philosophy which includes everything and seeks to give it perspective. Thus, the creation of health, rather than the service of illness, becomes the focus. Robin L. Ingle, ND, and we know that stands for not a doctor, Dip Hom, Dip Nutter, Nuto, DBM, is a practicing medical herbalist, homeopath, and naturopath currently serving Canberra and Sydney. And let's see, this dates from 1992. So it's a wonder why Robin L. Ingle, ND, DIP, etc., did not take advantage of the Australian Skeptics $100,000 prize at the time or since. And indeed, directly under that report, that item, we have an advertisement. Robin L. Ingle, ANTA, ATMS, accredited naturopath, medical herbalist, homeopath, chronic skin complaints, food sensitivity testing, women's health issues, diet and nutrition, including sports nutrition, student discount provided, Suite 17 Deakin Court, and there's an address there for a clinic, presumably in the Australian Capital Territory. At the end it says here, health fund rebates may apply. Now, it's interesting that food sensitivity testing is listed here. I've seen this done at various mind-body wallet festivals using quackery machines, but who knows what that meant way back then in 1992. But let's go back a couple of years now. In fact, we'll go back to the year 1986 in the Canberra Times, dated the 15th of May. Alternative cures fail medical, from Andrew Veitch in London. Alternative medicine was dismissed by the British Medical Association this week as being, in the main, ineffective and in some cases dangerous. The conclusions of its report on some 100 treatments ranging from acupuncture to Bach flower remedies were condemned as diversive and negative by two leading organizations for complementary medicine, both of which declined to give evidence. Prince Charles commissioned the report when he was BMA president, and homeopathy, a treatment favoured by the Queen, is described as having, quote, no rational basis, end quote. The assured benefits are ascribed to the practitioner's faith in the remedy and the, quote, impressive appearance and dosage regimen of the medicine, end quote. Acupuncture, say the BMA experts, chaired by an anaesthetist, Professor James Payne, can be shown scientifically to relieve pain, but only in as few as 5% of cases. Patients should only go to trained practitioners because of the risks of needles penetrating vital organs and dangers of AIDS and hepatitis being spread on dirty needles. That would be a long needle if it went down to a vital organ. Manipulation, osteopathy, and chiropractic are useful in treating spinal disorders, but only if the condition has been diagnosed first by a doctor to exclude the possibility that a pain in the neck may be caused by a tumour rather than a misplaced bone, and only if the practitioners are trained. And in the subsequent decades, chiropractic in particular has come up short many times, even with these sort of claims. Qi, Te or Tai, T-A-I, I'm not sure what that is, prana and other systems of harnessing the body's energy flows are described as, quote, no more than dogmatic metaphysics, end quote. Bach flower remedies, or batch, I think it's Bach flower remedies, in which extracts of flowers are used to cure negative mental states, and aromatherapy, in which the patient is massaged with oils, are considered fairly harmless but sadly ineffective. The report says that scientific trials are needed to assess the merits of alternative treatments, but for many therapies, trials would be inappropriate because of the personal nature of the treatments and the ill-defined conditions of the patients. The BMA secretary, Dr. John Harvard, explained, "We are not saying it's a load of nonsense. We're saying you can't measure it scientifically." The secretary of the Research Council for Complementary Medicine, Mr. Harold Wicks, said, "By being negative and dismissive, the report will separate the orthodox from the complementary practitioner. That is not in the public interest. We would like to see the best of complementary medicine brought into mainstream medicine." His organisation, as well as the Council for Complementary and Alternative Medicine, refused to give evidence to the inquiry because there were no alternative practitioners on the BMA's team. And that original report is credited to The Guardian. Now we head to Adelaide, to Port Adelaide, in fact, in South Australia, in the Hills Messenger, dated the 6th of January 1993. Alternative health at fingertips, with the accompanying photograph here of Mitchums Ann Powell with her ultimate guide to alternative health services in Adelaide. And we have Ann Powell, presumably posing in front of several copies of her, or the guide. And this is a story by Megan Lloyd. It is the ultimate guide for every sensitive New Age person chasing a healthier and harmonious lifestyle. Launched last month, Holistic Attitudes is Adelaide's first directory for detailing the local alternative health scene. While there's no promise of nirvana, the directory by Mitchums Ann Powell does offer, quote, different methods to different people, end quote. It is clear many people have become disillusioned with Western medicine and they want to try some new and ancient methods of natural therapy, Anne said. The directory lists various health practices, including massage, reflexology, rebirthing. That was a fad that surely had died out by the time this was published anyway. Aromatherapy and Tai Chi, with personal trainers, nutritionists, and float tank centers. There are also listings for lesser-known alternatives such as kinesiology, which of course they mean the quackery of applied kinesiology, Psyche Energy, and I don't know what that is, and Reiki. A registered nurse for 13 years, Anne believes many people are uneasy and concerned about the quality and professionalism of alternative practitioners. And so they should be. She dreamt up the name Holistic Attitudes by lying in a float tank a couple of years ago. A few weeks later, the idea for the directory came in a flash of inspiration. Anne started compiling a registry of qualified practitioners, either known to her or recommended by others for their excellent service and qualifications. She says alternative medicine is about bringing back the common sense options, such as massage and herbal remedies, which have been around for eons. Made from 100% environmentally friendly materials, the directory was backed by the federal government's New Enterprise Incentive Scheme. The first directory will be updated after 6 months. An annual edition will be published in 1994, followed by a national directory. The directory costs $35 a year, which includes a year's membership to Holistic Attitudes, discounts, and additional services through the directory listings. Available from Holistic Attitudes, P.O. Box 387, Kingswood, 5062. And that was from the Hills Messenger from Port Adelaide, dated the 6th of January 1993. And finally, we have one more report from the Canberra Times, and we yo-yo back to 1994 on the 21st of March. Young cancer victims using alternative therapies. Sydney. Almost 50% of children with cancer use alternative therapies, usually alongside conventional medicine, a South Australian study has found. However, less than half the children's parents discussed the alternative therapies with their child's doctors, the study published in the latest Medical Journal of Australia found. The study of 48 children at Adelaide's Women and Children's Hospital found 17% had positive image therapy, 15% had hypnotherapy, 15% had mental image therapy, and 10% did relaxation exercises. Now, I don't know what positive image therapy is or mental image therapy. I wonder what that is. A few children also tried special diets, multi- and megavitamins, naturopathy, spiritualism, faith healing, meditation, vegetable juices, chiropractic, or homeopathy. Parents said they chose alternatives to give their children some control over their lives to assist the chemotherapy, help the child cope with unpleasant side effects, or because it might help but would not harm. Parents said therapy helped the children, who were aged between 4 and 16, relax, reduce pain, and give the child hope for the future. Some alternative therapies help children cope with cancer, but doctors needed to know what other therapies were being used to avoid undermining the treatment. One of the study's authors, cancer expert Dr. Michael Rice, said, "For example, megavitamins with high doses of folic acid should not be given to children receiving methotrexate for leukemia, for folic acid interferes with the drug's action," Dr. Rice said. Choosing alternative therapies and avoiding conventional therapy could risk the child's life, Dr. Rice said. However, Dr. Rice said therapies such as hypnotherapy could greatly help children cope with side effects of conventional therapy. And this reminds us all to be mindful of people going through a difficult situation. And we can imagine if you're a parent of a young child undergoing quite dramatic treatment, chemotherapy or other treatments, then sometimes you will look far and wide for anything that gives you hope that your child is having an easier time or coping better. And of course, that's where a lot of well-meaning alternative practitioners leap in, and a certain percentage of outright shonks, cons, frauds, and very bad people indeed peddling snake oil. So there we are, just a few random bits and pieces over the years concerning, once again, the very broad topic of alternative medicine. But you too can find all sorts of random things from all over the years when you visit Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. Type in your search, and you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast this week. Kate and Allie, great to see you. It's great to be all together for a change. Well,
Yes, it's so nice to actually be in the same room together instead of 2 different countries, 3 different cities. It's wonderful to finally be together.
and on next week's show, you'll hear Kate and Allie again. I think there's a quiz coming up.
There's a spooky quiz coming up for Halloween.
Good timing almost. Yeah, that'll be fun.
It's perfect, yeah. And again, I'm kept in the dark for it.
Well, you should be.
It's spooky season. Of course you're kept in the dark. That's where the ghosts play.
We want to thank all our wonderful subscribers and sponsors, as always. It's you people out there who keep the Skeptic Zone going. You really do, and we appreciate you all very much.
Them and caffeine.
Them and caffeine, apparently. You can't keep a good loon down, folks, I tell you now.
Speaking of that, I was gifted a plush loon by Carolyn D.
And I was gifted a nice frameable Loons from Canada picture by Kat McLeod.
I was. I did. I was? I didn't. I did.
You're turning into me.
We're sharing the brain.
I can't tell you two apart.
Right?
But for this week, from beautiful, ridiculous, over-the-top Las Vegas, this is Richard Saunders.
Kat McLeod. Adrienne Hill.
Signing off.
Very good.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
Are we going to play the dice game?
We're going to play the dice game.
Oh my God, it's only Tuesday night and we're at CSIcon. How are we going to play the dice game? Oh my gosh, there's how many people in my room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of us already. Well, I've only been here an hour. This is
okay, there are 8 people and it's a 10-sided die. So what are the odds?
1 in 10.
Somebody's got to get it right.
Well, 1 in 10 that will get the 1 in 10 that will get the number right. Okay, so everybody here obviously knows what the dice game is because you all follow the Skeptic Zone's Easter eggs at the very end after it's played. You got to play. Now I always guess 5, 5, 5. So, all right. So I'm going to roll this 10-sided die, and I want to hear from everybody what they think the roll is going to be.
1,
8,
3.
How many sides is it again?
10.
10.
10. No?
Carl.
3.7.
3.7. Wendy guesses a 4. Okay, so Kathy, did you give a number? 8. Okay, here comes a 5. It is a 10. Ooh, Heather scores. All right, okay, we're going to do it again. Numbers?
All right, this time I'm going to say 8.
Okay, 5 again.
I'll
7.
stick with 8. 7 as well.
You can pick anything. Carl, what do you say? E. 4. Okay, here we go.
1.
Okay, here comes 5. It is an 8. You got it.
Me.
Richard and me.
Richard got it.
Good
job.
You did. Okay.
Richard and Kathy. Okay, so for the final roll, the object is to get the number.
dice.
You use your psychic
Use
prediction
your psychic-
powers.
Oh.
Come on, man. Control the die.
All right, 5.
Okay,
2.
5.
1.
7.
5. Oh, no, wait a minute. It can't be 5. 3.
It can be a 5.
It'll
It's
never be
very
a 5.
likely to be a 5.
Never a 5.
3.
I said 5.
Okay, so Kathy and I are saying 5s. It is a 6. Stupid die.
Did anybody say 6?
Nobody.
Thank you, Susan.
Nobody's psychic here. I'm maybe by the end of the conference
Carl
it will
was
be.
close.
Carl picked 3.14.
No, he picked E.